Jean David sets the bar high, very high, both professionally and personally, and also for all of us who work with him. He has been a biodynamic farmer and gardener for more than 40 years. And in addition to his work with medicinal plants, Jean David has been a dairy farmer, and he established the cheese-making program at Campbell Village, Copiague. So he has many talents relevant to our work here. And here at Churchtown, he has pioneered a very popular medicinal garden apprenticeship program, and he is constantly experimenting and tinkering in his workshop and in his garden in an effort to grow the highest quality plants imaginable. And I want to say that the quality of the plants that Jean David grows is recognized by herbalists all over the country. So, I want to read you a quote as part of this. This is a quote that has been attributed to Johann Sebastian Bach, although it's not clear whether or not he actually said it, but it's a nice quote, and it goes like this. It says, "In the architecture of my music, I want to demonstrate to the world a new and beautiful social commonwealth. The secret of my harmony, each instrument in counterpoint, and as many contrapuntal parts as there are instruments. It is the enlightened self-discipline of the various parts, each voluntarily imposing on itself the limits of its individual freedom for the well-being of the community. That is my message. Not the autocracy of a single stubborn melody on the one hand, nor the anarchy of unchecked noise on the other. No, a delicate balance between the two, an enlightened freedom, the harmony of the stars in the heavens, the yearning for brotherhood in the heart of humanity. This is the secret of my music." Yeah. And I bring this quote because, to me, it highlights one of the greatest gifts that Jean David brings to the Churchtown Dairy. As the director of the dairy, I would like to say that working with Jean David is like having a world-class musician in your orchestra. and one of the greatest gifts that he brings, to use the metaphor of music, is that he always plays his best, which is to a very high level. And at the same time, he knows when he needs to play fortissimo and stand out in the front, and he knows when to play pianissimo. He knows when it's his role to be the melody, and he knows when it's his role to play the harmony. And by doing that, he really, he inspires all of us to play better, and I think he makes us all sound a little bit better too. So it's my privilege and honor to introduce Jean David.
Wow. What a beautiful group of people. Thank you for coming. It's very warm here, not in temperature, but in your presence. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to first express my gratitude to you, Abby, and to Churchtown Dairy, and to those who work here with me to allow me to do this work with plants. And we're just starting, and it's still to come. We don't know what's coming out of it, but it's a privilege to be allowed to do that. Thank you. I would like to also bring in this room two dear friends of mine, mentors of mine, teacher who are with me all the time. And what I've learned a lot comes through their being inspired by them. The one is Danielle Laberge, who some of you know. She's a biodynamic herbalist in Quebec, and she has a depth of heart which allows her to know plants to their deepest. And also communicate with the earth in a such as also as deep as that, as with the plants. She works out of anthroposophy, the work of Rudolf Steiner, and biodynamics in a very, very strong way. And she developed a course in a herb course a long time ago that I tried to take on. And also another individual is Denis Klocek, also strongly working out of the work of Rudolf Steiner and developing, deep insights in the work of biodynamics and medicinal plants in particular. And because he's an alchemist, a new alchemist, not the new alchemist, but a real alchemist of our time, and which allows him to go into many, many sciences and really understand things in such a way that we will only be able to ourselves get there in quite some time down the road. And I'm privileged to work with him and work with medicinal plants and some specifically some sprays, which I will talk at the end about. Another person I like to bring in more dedication is a gentleman called Joel Morrow, who is very well known in the biodynamic circle. Joel passed away in September, last September, and the dear friend, also a landscaper, and he had such deep experience also with the world of plants that he was able to know them in a depth which I wish also would get there sometime, and has always been very inspiring to me. I will need some time to read my script because my script is very clear inside me, but my translation from the inside out is sometimes challenging to me, but there will be the action anyway. I'll have in front of you some slides that draw your attention, and hopefully will nourish you. So today, what I want to bring in front of you is the simple picture of the plant in its interaction between Earth and cosmos. So you can build within you a living image of this incredible kingdom, whose role is to bring healing wherever it is. If I stop a minute, because I'm touched by the being of plants, which are not just a word, not just an outer reality, but something profound. Because plants display so perfectly the laws of life. And this biodynamic perspective that we try to bring will help perhaps to understand the true nature of medicinal plants. I will bring no science, but pictures and my words. And I will try to remember to flip from picture to pictures. So a few words about Candlemas. Some of us were in the greenhouse earlier, just next door. We were celebrating the completion of this space, and all around were candles placed into ice. Maybe they're still burning, the wind has not been too strong. Candlemas is a time in the year which is just situated between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. If you turn back, you see the darkest point of the year, so to speak. And if you look ahead, you'll see the sun just above the horizon. I personally, I have a connection to this festival. Every year, it has been always significant for me for the last 35 years, and we've celebrated in different ways. And indeed, it's a festival of, which is very, very old. Obviously, there's something going on that day. And I would like to read a passage from the agricultural course from Rudolf Steiner, which is the basis of biodynamics. At Churchtown, every week, returning to that content and trying to deepen it, to understand it. And some of you here work with this, you know that after 40, 50 years, you can still work with it as it was a new material. On the lecture we actually just, that we turned to this past week, he says the following. The time between January 15 and February 15 is the time when the water and the earth element come under the influence of the distant cosmic forces that are within the earth. For the mineral substances, midwinter is the time when the strongest formative forces, the strongest crystallizing forces can develop within the earth. Those are words that are bigger than our imagination can fathom, and yet when we hear about crystallization, we know crystals. We know, out of stones, out of water, we have a sense what they are. And we also somewhere have a sense of what's called the inner light, and because we can maybe think that at this time the earth is light in the earth. It's at least it's an imagination we can work with, whereas outside it's different. And the day of today of Candlemas is this shifting between, as I said before, the darkness and the light. There's a bit of a threshold going on there. We are just at this passage. The plants, if they were given the warmth they need, can begin to grow. There's more than 10 hours a day of light. Of course, temperature. At least in the greenhouse, you could do that. I would like to read words from my friend Danielle Laberge, to bring her here, about Candlemas. Danielle is an amazing writer in French, or in Quebecois. However, I tried to translate it as best as I could. We are the earth, becoming conscious of herself. I repeat, we are the earth, becoming conscious of herself. I thank the winter for giving life to spring untiringly. I thank the indispensable silence and its richness of reflection, giving life to action. Fertile silence is always winning. There's this notion of inwardness in the past where your thinking can really maybe more be in a crystallizing mode, and then looking ahead with your action, sort of place the actions in your imagination as the sun will rise above the horizon on the equinox. I wasn't sure if I was going to speak about what I'm going to speak today, because it's so universal and yet so essential and can be so practical. But I will try to do my best to bring these thoughts, which are extremely simple in their facts, but quite deep in their reality. This part is called the Wheel of Time, to describe the path of the sun, which we all know well. It's what we live with every day. Here I put at the bottom the winter solstice, which is natural, it's down under, and up here the summer solstice, and on that either side the equinoxes. So I'm going to use my hand. The sun is going obviously this way. All right, Candlemas is about here, just midway between here and there. And that's your horizon, if you will. Not the horizon over there, but the celestial horizon. And then over there, summer solstice, fall equinox, when the sun comes back here. So this is a universal rhythm. If you look into any processes, you will find that in different ways. Here you have the darkness of Earth, a certain contraction, concentration, and here you have the opposite, a complete expansion, a complete peripheral force, if you will. And here you have the middle. It's just the balance. So it's so simple and yet so universal. You can see it in any event, even in encounters between you and someone else during your day. And there was night and there was day. Here you go. So it's a universal phenomenon, a dialogue between Earth and cosmos. Knowing that the place in between is a place of healing, between a contraction where everything is contracted to the utmost and the expansion completely expanded, completely out there. The balance, as we know too well, is where things can heal. And that's where we're going to place the plant, of course, in that context. We can add something, is the 12 windows through which the cosmos shines onto the earth. 12 windows, which are the constellation of the zodiac, through which the sun shines and imprint onto the earth different qualities. We of course know that reference, through astrology, which is, the same source, obviously. I'm not going to go much further except to say that the moon does the same, and every planet, by that matter, does the same in a month. The sun does this in a whole year, and the moon does this in 1 month. And so the moon will go through in front of these windows and be able to shine these different qualities onto the earth. And plants are specifically sensitive to that. That will instruct us of how to work sometime, so we can make use of those qualities. Now I just want to go through the whole plant development, to start with from seed to the whole flowering. I will not necessarily give you all the keys and clues and about identification of plants, but once in a while I will. And if you really can't help it, I can let you know. But let's take the pictures as such. That's what's important. That's metal. So from the gravity and the mothering, that's also where the mothering begins, of the earth. The seeds or the dormant roots will sprout. And the leaves will be able to open and unfold. The plants at this point will go into levity towards the light. Petition. Leaves are the seat of an amazing mystery and an amazing phenomenon. That is photosynthesis, which we take completely for granted. Of course, like everything we do, we take everything for granted. But if you just be able to contemplate that phenomenon for a short time, you will start to sense the dimensions that are behind all of the wisdom of nature, in which we are included to some respect. In the leaf, the light from above is coming and is meeting the water from below, loaded with nutrients from earth. And this is this meeting of those two that is contributing to the building of the plant, cell after cell. The plant is made of this meeting of these two streams. Here, this is a drawing from Jochen Bockemühl, who studied plants a great deal and made beautiful paintings, rendering to illustrate different things. And here you can see the roots, which usually, when I take pictures out there, I never manage to take pictures of the roots until the plant is already out of the ground. But they grew those plants in boxes with a window, so the root is going against the window, so you can see how they are. At the beginning, the leaves are usually, they will have form, but the form of the leaves will come more and more into play as the plant grows. The more the plant will grow upward, the more form will the leaves receive. And you can see here you can't really see very well, but you can imagine you have seen plants. This is a chicory. The leaves are more and more formed and also smaller as you go up the stem. It's a general thing. The leaves become more pointier. Here's an example of clary sage, and you can see the lower leaves are bigger, and as you go, they get smaller and smaller, and to the point of being very, very small and very more and more pointy. Just illustrates that progression of this, not the competition, but the collaboration between, the growth from below, where more water and earth and nutrients, are playing with light and are really making flesh, if you want, and the light which is bringing more and more form. So that's in between. That's exactly what happens. So it's a play between those two, and in time, the light is sort of the winner, if you want, and more and more form is taking place. So light brings about form. And it's almost like, the light is like burning out the plant material, and it becomes almost skeleton. And there's many, many forms of that. You will see a lot of pictures of these plants because it's one of, do you have a favorite plant? No, I don't. Yes, I have a lot of them. And you probably do. That's one of them for me. I like tall plants. This is the mullein. But it's funny to say I like it, it's not what I mean. I have an affinity for it. Because in that plant I really display a lot of things. And it speaks to me a great deal. In this picture you can see what I was mentioning, the large leaves, and then the leaves becoming smaller and more pointier. That's just the beginning of the plant. This is the second year of that plant. It has already grown the first year. That's a biennial. And in there's in the leaves in the plant, there are hormones that regulate the growth. And to make it extremely simple, there are hormones that multiply the cells to make it more and more cells. So it's grows in quantity and in size, and it's a more horizontal growth. And you have other hormones that are more elongating the cells in the plant and making it going more upward. So you have this combination of these two. And here you can see, it's not I don't like the word competition, but it's a dialogue, if you will, between those two. And it keeps happening. And it's a certain species, a given species, you could say as it sets of how it's going to grow. And of course it's affected by the climate, by the soil and so on, but it's all planned kind of thing. It's going to go this way and that way, and it's changed. It does its own thing. Each species is its own thing. It's its own individual characteristic. Here, I don't know if you see the same as I do. I feel there's a lot going on in there, and the verticality really is taking over. And yet, this is such a nice marriage between those two, and gradually one will yield to the other. These two actions are called in the jargon of farming or gardening, spreading and stemming. Later on, I will explain something about that in regard to the sprays that I'm experimenting with. At this point, I would like to quote Denis Klocek here in an expression which is fundamental to the understanding of plants. He says, not exactly in those words, but I'm paraphrasing, what you see here is not the plant, it's the activity of the plant coming to rest. This notion of the material, the plant material that you have in front of you is not the plant. Although, yes, it's the plant, but it's the plant becoming manifested. So it's something in motion. It's alive. I mean, as we know, we are not a snapshot, we are a video. We are a moving thing. So, it's obvious. But if you contemplate it deeply and meditate on this, there's something fascinating to about that, which can also enlighten, how you would go about your growing plants and dealing with life altogether. An activity come to rest. In a way, it's like a footprint. If I walk in the snow, like we all did, you would see your footprint, but you're still walking. you are in front of your manifestation. And then, boom. There's a jump in the plant evolution from leaf to flower. The same plant. It's a complete different dimension when the flower comes in. That picture before of this tight budding thing, it's the same thing here, same rhubarb. When it exploded into flower, which usually people cut right out. Get rid of it, you want more rhubarb. It's always been hard for me to do that, but sometimes I have to do it. So the leaves metamorphose into flower. This is a whole concept which I not want to go into right now, but there is a real deep relationship between this and this, although it's a huge step. It's the same thing, but seen from another dimension, or there's a transformation, the metamorphosis. Something new coming into being. In a way, when the flower comes about, you behold the identity of the plant. Say, oh, it's you. You don't know it before the flower comes out. Of course, when you know the plant, you say, well, this is this, this is that. But you know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is who I am. The flower is going to always be the same. The leaves might not always be the same. Because they keep changing, and if the conditions change, they will also be different. The flower is what it is. Some individuals I know, having worked with observation in a great deal, are able to tell you on a plant they don't know how the flower is going to look like. I'm still working on it. Imagine, you see a leaf, and you see the flower in the leaf. We're going to come back to that later. So the flowering is the crowning of the plant. It's the apotheosis. Is that how one says the word? Apotheosis.
Apotheosis.
With the flower, the plant goes from inside, you can see inside the leaf, out. It's the same bud, more or less, once opened. So it's really going out to the periphery, as I mentioned before, with the top of the circle. And then with flower comes the scent, the pollen. And you can see in those, as the plant is going into almost nothingness, pollen is just flying away, extremely small bits of matter. They don't matter anymore, although they carry a lot, and the scent is even more ethereal. Its matter is completely disappearing. With the production of pollen, the fertilization of the plant will take place. Different ways, with insects or with wind or even self-pollination. And paintbrush, when we don't have bees anymore.
Ooh.
Insects and the plants and flowers need each other. They complement each other. And there's something in the flower that attracts the insects. It could be a scent that we cannot even smell ourselves. And in exchange for what the insect is going to take, they will allow fertilization of the flower, as you know. They really complement each other. And as this happens, funny to have this little light going around like this. As this happens, this meeting happens, with the insect or not, but that phase of the flower, there's the whole element of warmth which could be added to the equation. You can see the warmth is really moving in. When I say warmth, I don't mean only the temperature, but the element of warmth. Like the same I felt from, as I mentioned at the beginning. It's not temperature only, it's an element that you can't necessarily measure. For the plants, the element of warmth is certainly the dawn of a new phase. You know, the warmth of summer, obviously, as it impacts the plant world. And connected to fertilization, of course, the seed is there. I would like to summarize a little bit what I said now with taking the words from Denis Kloczek. And I don't remember where they come from exactly. Probably one of his book, or I'm not sure. that the plant in flowering is moving from gravity forces into the levity forces of light and warmth. It is burning its lower forms to rarefy its substances into more potent and thereby more robust healing forms that are put into the seed. So that's an indication of the medicinal gifts plants are giving us. We'll come back to the flower a bit later. I want to complete the cycle of the circle. As a matter of fact, we were, at the top of that circle and we're going down. This is the same flower where the bees was in the picture before. Sage. As the seed are getting formed, the whole gesture is much more inward. So from the outward gesture of flower, there's the inwardness of seed formation. Just the oval, the oval shape, and the whole activity becomes hidden, is within the, within here. Even in that picture, you can see the gesture of the seeds themselves. Is a calendula seed head. Of course, when the flowers have come about, there will be. It's not like the plant does its flower and say goodbye. No, it's ongoing. There's side shoots after side shoots that come on the plant, that new plants onto the plant, and it keeps going. Each species having its own story. But once this cycle of side shooting and the flowering and going to seed is coming to a slow down, then you have that happening. So of course it's connected to the time of the year. It can be the frost, it can be less light, it could be a number of things depending on the plant. The vitality in the plants sort of to withdraw to the point of disappearing completely, or together going away. The plant will change color, and here we have in this area we have this beautiful display of the maples that are full of colors. And the plants become stripped. It's like everything is going downward. Gravity is really coming to the fore. Forms are breaking down. Like a fire would have burned them to ash. And this ash would disappear into the ground. Plant has been now at the mercy of gravity. But good news is that yes, the seeds have been formed and left behind. Of course, this, if it's a perennial, the roots will be left behind, or the buds on trees. Anyway, seeds is a whole mystery of its own. And it can take so many forms. This one is so beautiful how the light plays, and you know it well, the milkweed, how in the fall this display of light onto the silk, and then it's up, it starts to go in the wind. That's it's a cousin of the purple loosestrife, which we don't want to spread around, but still. But actually, this is not in this country; it was overseas. But it's all right.
Yeah.
Everything has been put into this. Where has the plant gone? Where is it? Where do you think it is? Lots of them. I wanted to come back on the flower to sort of broaden the notion of flowering. I don't know if it's true what I'm going to say, but it's how I see it. Because there's a lot of variation on that, you know, in terms of spatial variations and time variations. Let's see. That's a plant archetype. Roots, leaves, flower. End of story. Very simple. This is a drawing from Aline Bérard, who is drawing all the Daniel Laverge's course. Beautiful drawings in a course. Very expressive. So the plant grows, make leaves, and make a flower. Done. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not so simple. Most plants flower after the leaf has been coming about, but common. Then you have side shoots, as I mentioned before, and more flowers and so on. This is an ocean of chamomile. Chamomile is a plant that keeps giving, giving, giving. And it's a plant that is, like many other plants, like, you know, if you deadhead it, or if you keep taking the flowers, we make more flowers and more flowers. The generosity is like, it's like, yeah, crazy. Borage is also plant, will keep flowering, and you know, many plants do that. I just chose a couple to show you. Here, just to illustrate all these side shoots, you know, all the, I mean, we harvested this plant, we did, and yeah, a number of side shoots. I mean, you can see the flowers here, and it keeps growing. So it's how a lot of plants do, but some of them would flower before leafing. And they are not medicinal specifically, but I can't help but show them because those are the trees, a lot of trees. Because it's a spectacular event which is very briefly, you know, passing by and often unnoticed. Did you see the purpling of the trees around here? Did you see the buds starting to change a little bit? Keep your eyes open. And then this will take place. This is a red maple. And the sugar maple that was taken just down on the farm here. Oh, you have the sun in front of you, okay? So they flower first thing. Not all trees, of course. This comes from your orchard, Hugh. Here you have the male flowers. The future acorn is somewhere on the stem you can't really see on this picture. The large future cones. Willows. And then you have plants that do the same at the same time, leaf and flowers, leaf and flowers, and the leaf won't change and they keep flowering. And all the legumes are one of those families that do that, clover. And so, you know, how it works. I just bring this to your attention because there's so many variations on the theme of flowering. And to understand the plant better, to understand how those two play together. In the modern, again, I'm sorry about the same plant, but you can see here all these little leaves. You know, all the time they keep going, flower and leaves, flower and leaves, flower and leaves. And in grapes, grapevines, also you will have flowers. There it's just in the bud, but they will put new flowers, not like all the time, but they will keep flowering at intervals. Then there is something which I dare say that the flower has been already within the leaves. So of course that plant is a sage, will make flower. But prior to this, it will have already an imprint of the flower, of the flowering into its leaf. So maybe it's a bit of a stretch to put it that way. But if you think of the essential oils and all the ingredients that are in the leaf, so you could see the flowering was already present, is already present, very early in the game. Right at the beginning even. And as a matter of fact, those plants, this family of the mint family, they don't have such a change of leaf in the course of their growth. It's like it has happened simultaneously to their leafing. A lemon balm again. So, and even in the form of the leaf, you can see an imprint of this forming. I'll come to that in a second. This is the fennel. Touch the fennel leaf and it's full of fragrance. Fragrance belongs to flowers, doesn't in the archetype, okay. No, it's actually in the leaf. I mean, what I say is obvious. Of course, all the aromatic plants are like that. Just think of what's happening in the plant. This is a lettuce, the white lettuce from the Alps. I think it's like that. Maybe it's not, but let's do the lettuce. It doesn't matter what it is, but you can see all these points and all these curves, it's like there's, some work going on in that leaf that is like, I would call that a precursor of flower. All these sprigs. And there's hundreds, thousands of examples. And if you would cut that in particular or others, some of them have a hollow in the stem. A hollow is already also a sign of inwardness. I would say like a third dimension. The leaf is maybe 2-dimensional, and the flower is 3-dimensional. And the air inside a stem has this quality of inwardness of a third dimension, the air that is coming in the build-up. So just bring those things for broadening your view of what a flower is. And there the flower is inside the bud, but it's really, you see all this spider web. This is such a sign of light, because it's light, that got caught into the fabric here, and then those amazing, pretty heads. All the thistles, display that, for example. And then, you have also colors sometime into the leaves. Not too often, but you have, and this is, are those petals or are those leaves? Those are leaves. So you can see how that is already, there. And then in a way, you could say in roots, you have all maybe after the fact, all what's happening been manufactured in a plant is like being stored down in the roots. So the flower has gone into the root system. And of course in medicinal plants it's a very important thing. I better move on a little bit. And I also wanted to mention the time factor between, this flowering happens almost throughout the year. That is early April, September, and that's November. But it could be even January, February. It's a witch hazel. And so, with all I was saying, there's a notion of phenology, or the science of phenology, that, following how the phenomenon out there in plants are, moving throughout the year, how it's, what is flowering when, and that can instruct also what one does. Now I'm going to dive into waters that I am not so apt at swimming into, but I'm trying. It's because we spoke about form so far, outer form, and then you have what's inside the plants. And when we speak about medicinal plants, what you're interested, you don't care about the form, you care about the stuff which is inside that you're going to use as medicine. And because inside a plant, there's a world of an incredible complexity. Really, I actually discovered only lately, in the last couple of years, how far this complexity goes. And maybe I just scratch the surface. That's the whole world of the whole science of phytochemistry. There's a lot of names out there. If you start to open, what is that plant doing? And you look and there's a lot of things. The difficulty is that you can't open squeeze the plant and look at the juice, say, oh yeah, okay, I see this, then you can't see things. If you want to know what's in there, I think you need to have special devices, apparatus that can tell you, or testing and things that can, that's what you got. And then the classification of all these constituents that are in the plants are so complex. When it's trying to, in science, in modern science now, when it's trying to make, things fitting in categories, and it's a help. But it's so complex. So this whole amazing world is trying to be, boxed in. And one has to, in our time, to do that. One has to do that just to get to the bottom of it, literally. This is here because of this because of the photosynthesis I mentioned before, which is the start of everything. In there you have, what is at play in the fabric of the plant. You have a number of elements that are, the basis: the carbon, the oxygen, the hydrogen, the nitrogen, and sulfur, and others. And I would like to read something from Rudolf Steiner, because he introduces those elements in ways that are just unique. And they are unique because he gives these elements almost a personality. So it's not like, when you heard carbon, okay, those are things, elements, they have become, you have your table, and, they become very abstract. They can be very abstract. And yet, even in the table of, how you call this, the periodic table, thank you. There's there's a picture through their weight, atomic weight. So there's, something which is coming through. He speaks about carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, and sulfur being the four siblings. So imagine, you start to see personalities, four, individuals, not anything abstract anymore. He speaks about the carbon in being the great sculptor, bearing within itself the form-giving pictures, the greatest universal imaginations, source of all form in the natural world. So the carbon carrying that. I mean, this is incredible just to hear. And then you can work it as an imagination and maybe understand a little bit when you start to work with formulas or such things. The oxygen being the carrier of the living ether. Sulfur, the carrier of the spirit with its formative power. And I don't say that so you can, figure it out, but it's just to show how those elements can be more alive than just formulas or things. And they even in their carbon is very. If you remember the circle we had at the bottom, you could say the carbon is, like Earth is down there. And you could say the nitrogen is way up there in a way of connected to the air. There's so much nitrogen in the air. And the oxygen is, is more with life, with water, more, in that would be more in the middle. Just, to start to think in those terms. And then if you combine them, to get to those formulas and such, and what each of these constituents in the plants are, you can imagine certain dance or music, that they are being the subject of. And anyway, that's an encouragement. At least that's what I'm trying hard to develop this imagination, to see more life into this more cold and abstract way of looking at constituents of plants. But in plants, at some point, there are new type of constituents that are coming about, which are not anymore just for the life of the plant itself, but much more related to the outside. To say attract insects, or to fend off plant eaters, or to react to fungal attacks, or to whatever. That's at least how they are talked about. There are probably other reasons why they come about, and those are the very constituents that are the ones that we will use in medicinal or medicinal purposes. Most of them are those elements that are coming at the flowering time, and the flowering time being what I mentioned before, to playing a role in the plant which is more outgoing. So you have all the phenolic, that are all the aromas and colors and such like. The terpenes, where all the essential oils are part of. You have the alkaloids, which are more poisons-like, and and others. So those are coming in the plant not for the regular metabolism of the plant, but for they are secondary metabolites, just as a term, to really deal with the outside, if you want. And those are the ones that will become assets for humans and other beings as medicine. That's an arnica from the Alps. And so, because these constituents I'm just talking about happening, in a different place in the plant, different time of the year, you have this whole phenology thing is quite interesting to take in consideration. That will help you to know when you need to harvest, or when you need to do this or that, the other. Valerian fruits.
Mm.
So the fully developed plant is what will give you the medicine. Now we are almost done. We have 2 more steps to go. You're with me?
Yep.
Good. So I now want to speak a little bit towards, in the light of what I brought so far, what one can do as a grower for quality. I'm gonna get to work now. Yeah, or at least it's want to present a little bit what at least make for myself. What am I doing for quality? For ensuring that the plants are that what you harvest is the best that you can do. Because for medicine you need the best. You don't want anything mediocre. For food too, as a matter of fact, for anything, of course. Food being medicine anyway. So I brought my little circle again. Here is the same principle. I put at the bottom all what we can do for the soil, and above what sprays are coming from above. And in the middle, more related to time. With the soil, what I'm, one is needing a few things, and this is work in progress. Probably many more things to do, but just what I today am trying to bring about. Growing medicinal plants, you don't want to go into too much growth. You're not after stuff. As I described earlier, I mean, it's not about, a lot of things with water, full of material plant, which is important if you need food, you need material. But in medicinal plants, you don't want to have that. You want, so in your soil, you want your soil to be, draining well, So here, when I came here, before I came, I just went to the soil and scratched and talked to a couple of people, and they said, here it's drained. It's actually exceedingly draining. I said, great. Which for vegetables, maybe you don't want to really too much drainage because you will need to irrigate a great deal. But for and as a matter of fact, here I could really see the benefit of that. I have a garden for 11 years in an area which was not good with drainage. It was hard, it was difficult in the southern Catskills, and it was tough. And it was hard to bring that soil to be more draining. So raised bed, was one thing that I could do. And then you want your soil to be alive, because the plant is connecting to the soil. We didn't speak about that, but a lot coming from the cosmos. In the winter, like now, is actually going down into the ground. I mean, I think I read that. And it's coming up into the plant. So you want communication. The plant has to be really listening and receiving things from below. But you don't want too high fertility, otherwise you get stuff, more material. And you need that life. So, with our composting, we are able to not bring quantity but quality. At least that's the goal. If one can bring this compost, and in the biodynamic compost, in that we put certain plant medicinal plants, as a matter of fact, in there to direct a little bit the qualities that the plants will benefit from. It's hard to know exactly what the correlation between what you do and what you get, but that's the whole basis of biodynamic compost. And also the whole fungi, in the soil, which has also it's a whole communication, a whole dance between soil and plant roots. Something that I personally have not really worked with, but I'm intending to see how I can develop that more. Because when you cultivate, you usually destroy your fungi. So that's anyway. So that's also the soil. Then above here I put sprays, and so in biodynamic practices one uses a silica spray, and I'm not going to go into descriptions, but the silica sprays is really the goal of it is to help the plant to be its best, to be ready to unfold it to its best possible. And that in a fruits, if you grow fruits or if you grow tomatoes, I mean, it's really to bring all this the good stuff into your fruits, for instance. And I put underneath other sprays, which is sprays that I'm working with Dennis project, which are very interesting. And I'm not going to include details here, but they are sprays that will help to direct the plants to go in certain directions. So there's a lot of flowering and production of terpenes. So there's a succession of sprays, a lot of essential oils in one go. So you really heighten the quality of your crops, therefore not having to do so much. You can do less, have more. And I started to do that, and it's very interesting how you can influence the plant in certain ways. Like suddenly your lemon balm is like, whoa, it smells more than before. But this is just a research at this point. And I also put this gem and rose quartz, which is a little bit like the silica, but it's to bring another dimension. When you spray with other gems, such as the rose quartz, you are, because of the gesture of the quartz itself, how it's built at the macro level, It has a gesture which the plant will, so the light, if you will, that hits the plant will be modified by. And it's hard to understand, even more to explain, how that light that you can sort of modify a little bit to the benefit of the plant. In that case, with the rose quartz, it would be to stimulate the meristem, and especially in connection to boron. But I'm not going to bore you. Something quite fascinating is the whole question of time. As I described before with my circle and the 12 windows, when you do what is important, because you can influence different part of the plants and also the gesture of the plant, and so that has to do with the position of the moon primarily in the constellations. And again, I'm not going to go into in details, but when you seed, when you cultivate, when you will harvest, harvesting, you don't want to harvest towards the full moon, you want to use the new moon. You want the moon to be more in Ram rather than Pisces. These sort of things that to heighten the quality of your plant. Not only that, but there's a whole aspect of time that Denis Klarchek is as an alchemist has bring forth is the repetition in a rhythm, the whole rhythm how you do things, So rhythm in respect to these windows, and rhythm in respect to your own inner rhythm, how you bring something again. It's not just once, but you bring it again and again and again, and so you actually seal even further that a given quality that you are after. So that's a few things that I'm trying to work with. And and it's so nice to have time to do that. I was in all the works I've done before I came here. I had so many projects and people to work with. There was no space to work with plants, and what a pleasure to be able to spend time doing that here, and also being able to work with great people who are able to have insights that I can't even dream about myself. This is, where's the spray? It disappeared, there was a spray, but never mind. This is one of the fermentation for this sprays I'm talking about. This is to bring the pollen, the hormone which is in the pollen into a wort, which is a fermentation. I'm not going to go in details here, but we can talk afterwards if you want. Now I want to finish this presentation on speaking about something extremely important. It's all well and good, medicinal plants, and I didn't elaborate on the medicinal plants as such. I didn't, go into details. I gave you a very broad picture, and in which the medicinal plants are really, can become obvious. Now, the medicine you will take from the plants is one thing, but there's also another medicine that comes from plants. I want to get ahead of myself. I might even read what I wrote just for simplicity's sake. Please bear with me. Take a little break at this transition. So in the large picture of the beginning, we have placed the evolving plant. We have even entered its physicality briefly, locating what corresponds to its healing contribution to humans and other beings. Now we can zoom out again, placing the plant in a garden or a farm environment. its healing factor extends beyond the borders of its physicality. It can happen because the plant grows in between people and place. On the one hand, the plant kingdom and the human kingdom meet in 1,000 ways. Healing arises. On the other, this happens in a particular location. Their plants grow together, enhancing each other in dialogue with the place. This is a collective activity involving a collective of beings that are busy in a coming about of the plant kingdom. They are the elemental beings. This permeates the place, the garden, the farm. This is an effect of the biodynamic practices and the consciousness of the human involved. In this, the human is both active and receiving. Little greenhouse where we were earlier. You see the frogs? Oh.
Nice flower.
It was a stirring of the silica that we did, one of them that we did in the summer at sunrise. You took the pictures. Yeah. If there's questions, you can do it simply or, spend afterwards or whatever, because I think there's something going on now.
Yeah, thank you. That was really and we have some of Jean David's teas available. We're sampling these calming tea and the invigorating tea, which are
Depending what you need, you go to sleep or you wake up.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's just here, and they're just bringing it out, and there's some cheese. Thank you.